Facts.trade, but of course Facts.trade fell through a little bit. So
Yeah,
so here we are. But
yeah.
I'm
Here we
I'm
are.
glad that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, no. Yeah, I'm sad it fell through.
Yeah, yeah, it did. Yeah, I mean, you live. What you know what it is? The terminal space is. I don't know
Crowded.
if you've noticed, Gollum, but there's quite a few terminals out there.
Yeah,
Uh,
I keep. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
so
very
it's
crowded.
it's extremely crowded, and the unit acquisition, like the customer acquisition cost of building a terminal, is massive, right? So basically, the business that you're dealing with is you're trying to build a terminal amongst a sea of terminals. It's hard to charge fees because it's kind of a race to the bottom, and you're paying to acquire customers because of that competitive environment. So
Yeah,
the business of it starts to not make sense after a little while, unless you had like first mover advantage or something like that.
yeah, and I think also like there's so many scams in the space, so nobody wants to like really try anything new that they don't know. Like I get like 1,000 people want me to try their thing, but I don't want to connect my wallet or click any links. Like you're very skeptic because there's lots of like bad actors out there.
Yeah, especially now. I mean,
Yeah,
especially today. And honestly, I think we're going to get into that a little bit because I know you've been on top of that. I've been following your account. You've actually been really good about calling some of those out. But
yeah,
yeah, like nowadays, there's a ton of scams, and it's hard to know who to trust, especially when it comes to like the DeFi stuff, the DeFi side of prediction markets.
yeah. Unfortunately, it's sad that it's the state of things, but I mean, I guess it is what it is.
So Gollum, so I guess we can start out with just an introduction. If you kind of just want to give us a little background about who you are, what your background is, and kind of how you got into prediction markets.
Well, I got into prediction markets looking at Trump, like the election back then, because it was like quite obvious he's going to win. And then I got on the platform and I saw like there were so many like things that where you could print like 80, 60% like annualized yield, and you basically take zero risk. Like it was risk-free rate, insane amounts, and like it was just things that were impossible. It was like, will Kamala Harris be inaugurated as president? And you could buy that in like December, like way after the election. Like she's never gonna getting inaugurated, and it was yielding like 40%. So it caught my curiosity. In the beginning, I used it like very much like bonding, like just collecting the stupidly priced free yield, which I kind of regret because I hear Poly was like a lot easier back then. But then I was like with the mentality that I shouldn't take any risk, and like I think I'm like a bit damaged from working in finance that you like start to assume things are efficient and you think yeah, the assumption that things are efficient is very dangerous in prediction markets because you're missing out on so much money. And I also like focus maybe too much on like financial metrics and diversification, whereas I should have more aped in and taken a lot more risk back in those early days. Because yeah, I think they're uh, yeah, I think it was very free to make money back then. It's still like good money to be made here for sure.
I mean, yeah. Do you think that opportunity is running out? Because like to be honest with you, I've started to trade like the high probability events. I mean, is that kind of what you're talking about? Like
I
jumping
think
into. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
think one thing even made an X post about this a while back, but when I started out, you could buy stuff that was like basically over like a year ago. Like I started a year and a half ago in early 2025, and you could buy stuff that was like basically zero chance of happening, like physically impossible things, and you could get like 60, 70% API on that. If you do that today, it's a lot lower. And I think the reason for that is because uh, we have all these mega bonders, like the total value locked on the platform is like way bigger than back then. So all the like truly risk-free stuff, now suddenly you see like as well order book with $30 million for one of those mega bonds. Like so it's so crowded, and the price goes to like 99.9 right away, and then yeah, they ruin it for everyone. So and I think before we had like an undersupply of capital compared to people who wanted moonshots, because we have like lots of people, I call them like guys with $100 in a dream, and they like, if you have $100 and like it's not that much for you, but you have a dream, right? You want to make some money, so they go on prediction markets and they start slamming long shots. And I think the supply of capital willing to take the other side of that trade and provide the possibility for a long shot was way smaller before. But now we're like this dispute markets and the like big bonds. It's so much capital willing to provide it, and I think that kind of pushes like if you want like that kind of high API, you're kind of forced to take more risk, and because the risk-free stuff is now filled with these mega bonders. And I think the game has changed a bit because yields have definitely fallen. Stuff that would be like 97%, like 2 weeks before resolution, is like 99.5 now. So I think you kind of have to shift your strategy based on what happens in the market. I do think like I don't have the actual data to back this up. I'm sure someone like probably gonna do some research on it, but eventually. But that's just my anecdotal observation.
So this might be a ridiculous question, but you know, who's providing the other side of the liquidity on these kind of free takes in prediction markets? Like, who would it's
The
a
Earth
question
is
that I've been
flat.
thinking. Sorry, what's that?
The Earth is flat, for example, like those
Yeah,
markets.
like the Earth is flat, or like like who's providing the other side of this? Like, is this poly market? Is this
I think it's just like
institutions?
people who do it for the lols, for the memes, and for example, I did like buy the Jesus Christ market at one point, and I think it was a very clever trade of me because I could buy it at like 1%, and I realized this was like in January, and someone put a bid at 99%, and like I just fill it, and we have now 11 months, 1%, or like slightly more than 1% API. It's pretty good idea maybe to. It might be a good idea to what's it called uh, to to sell that. Like he's not going to want to hold that, right? So the price eventually like adjusts back to like something more like the risk-free rate, like a bank deposit rate. So I think it yields like 4% API or something. The like those Jesus Christ returns markets, which are like basically risk-free. Mm, yeah.
So you mentioned that. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, Gollum. I think
No,
I cut
go
you
ahead.
off. I was just going to say, I think you meant. So you mentioned that you got in during the kind of like the Trump election event, right? Which was a
Yeah.
massive liquidity event, made a ton of whales. I mean, that's what I heard. We were talking with the CEO of Predixon, who told us that the Trump event was like the single biggest, like the Trump election was like the single biggest whale creation event for poly market, and still is. I'm wondering, if that's true or not. If you have any insight on that,
I don't know
because
if
I
it's
thought
a
it was
whale
an interesting
creation
take.
event, but it like definitely brought a lot of people to the platform. Like me and a lot of other people I know in like real life, all started like betting on on that election. Uh, so it definitely drew like a lot of volume and new traders. Most I don't think stuck around. I stuck around because I found it like quite fun. But I don't think everyone stuck around. No.
What?
Um,
Well, so
So I guess
we're
it brought new traders in, and many stuck around.
interesting, and so you mentioned also that you come from a traditional finance background, and I already knew that because I think you were in communication with Deji, who also works for Polyfactual, and he told me that you were from like a traditional equities background, um,
And not equity, private equity.
private
So
equity. Okay.
yeah.
Uh, so in your world, right, and this is a question I'm getting more and more. Um, are you well no, I shouldn't ask that. I'm not going to ask location stuff, but in your world, are there a lot of people getting into prediction markets right now from traditional finance? I've heard, I know some people at HRT, someone at HRT was telling me that they're spinning up like a prediction market division. But that's the only firm that I've heard of. Of course, they're like a prop trading firm.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, in your experience, like, are there people from traditional finance starting to look into this? Big players.
I think not that it's like there's a lot of finance employees because finance employees love like trading stuff and betting on stuff and also have a lot of disposable income. So there's certainly a lot of finance professionals who bet on prediction markets, but I don't think it's yeah. Uh, I don't think it's. I don't think many like real institutional traders are entering the platform. Certainly for some of these mega bonders, I think they are like crypto trading firms. I know people have been tracking on the blockchain, like some of these bond accounts with 30 million dollars who just go bond bond these clarification markets that are sort of risk-free yield, and that money comes onto the platform and it leaves again. And I think those are probably like sort of institutional investors. I don't think there's that many like private investors with that kind of money in it. And I don't see like really like the institutional adoption, to be honest. The fees are way too high and there's way too many like hacking risks and vulnerability risks that I think it's not like I think that's a dream of having like lots of institutional capital. Like it's not gonna happen. That's cooked for now. Like their website is way too buggy for like it's not the institutional product. It's not like what the institutional investor would require in terms of security and usability, etc. And like Polymarket also does so many mistakes. So yeah.
What about like other prediction markets like Kalshi, which have already made inroads with some institutions, especially on like the regulatory side? Do you think that they have a better chance of maybe becoming an institutional product, or do you think that there's something fundamentally in the DNA of prediction markets that makes it not friendly to institutions as like
I think
traditional?
Kalshi has a way better chance because they're like way more serious as a company. No hate Poly, but like yeah, they are way more serious, and you don't have like all the hacking and crypto risk and scams that you have related to Poly. And I feel like, for example, there was a time when Poly like updated the API, or like they updated that you couldn't. What's it called? You were unable to update some. They changed for their API traders for crypto. They changed latency, and it was like they didn't. They just did it, and it meant market makers got completely fucked because it was way like. It was a big event for those crypto market makers in the crypto markets, and Poly didn't warn them anything beforehand, and they just like ran the update and 10 minutes later they put it on Discord. They like didn't notify anyone. It's just like really bad communication, and they have done many things like that. And I don't think like real institutional capital will trust a platform that acts in this way. I mean, we are on it like as the sharps and the traders because like we are making quite good money and it's super fun, but I don't think it's like responsible for an institutional platform to do it. And what would they trade? I mean, they would do sports. There's certainly like institutional traders doing like market making for sport, I believe. Or, like on Kalshi, they have like internal team. I think Poly also going to get the internal team who's going to market make sports. So yeah, certainly you get those, but I don't think you're going to get like institutional traders. Like what there's only like basically liquidity for election, sports, crypto, and yeah, the fees are very high, and I guess the institution, like the internal market makers, are gonna do better. So no, I don't think we're gonna get a lot of institutional adoption, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, while we're on the subject, I mean, you've been really diligent about some of the stuff. I don't know if it's happening as much, but you were really diligent and on top of like calling out some of the referral farming schemes. There were a bunch of those earlier in the year, and again, I don't know if it's still going on. Maybe you can lend some information to that. But there were a whole bunch of these different slop accounts that were kind of like going viral and
I
just
hate that.
farming referral fees basically with misleading information. And then there's a lot of I mean some of them might have like pumped the market artificially. I mean I don't know about that, but you were on top of that, so credit where credit's due.
Yeah, I think especially like the insider baiting, because there's so many like of these lop accounts. Every time they see a new account place a big trade, like doesn't even have to be a big trade, like $5,000, like that's enough for them to scream insider, insider. And I don't think it's, uh, yeah,
Yeah.
like I think like I live in the order books, like I'm always like seeing who I'm like who's filling me, who am I filling? Like it's very like that's always very interesting to see. Like you don't want to be filled like one of the notorious by one of the notorious fast clickers, then you probably have fucked up, right? So like if a price moves against me, I'm like, why is it moving? Who's buying? And if I see it's just some random retard, I'm fine. If it's like Mombil or car doing some fast clicking, then I probably have some issues.
Yeah, it's so funny because so I could speak a little bit to how the slop accounts really gravitated toward Polymarket. I think it happened because so so there were a couple things, right? First, Polymarket and Kelshi were in like this mindshare war. So I remember last year, and we got in on this too as Polyfactual. I mean, this is how we made a lot of our like initial money is earlier in the year they were like, oh, we need more mindshare, we need more Twitter accounts, we need more people talking about us. So me and a couple of other people, we were one of the guys who started Twitter accounts and we started tweeting and doing all of that stuff. We happened to launch a token, and we profited pretty big off of that. But they just kind of attracted like moths to the flame, all of these Twitter accounts and people who are just trying to look for massive engagement on social media. Now I don't know if I think it's declined in popularity like severely.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah. So I think but that could be like a wider prediction market bearishness as well. Which I'm curious, like your take on that. Like, do you think Polymarket and Kelshi over like right now? We just experienced massive hype cycle, massive mind share. Do you think right now things are a little bit on the decline? Like, if prediction markets were a token, do you think we would be in like a Bitcoin space right now? If that makes
Oof.
sense.
I don't know. Like I'm not that active on X, like except like looking at the news terminal and like reading the news.
Mhm.
And there's way too much slop, so I don't really spend much time reading it. But I do feel like I don't know about culture that much. I do trade on culture as well. I don't have like I think like poly is like 70-80% of my trading. And I do like culture, but they're very expensive on fees. Poly has also become that. But if culture was cheaper and they had more interesting markets, I'd certainly be there. But at least for poly, I think like it's a bad mood for like in the community, like because but that's mostly I don't think it's a prediction market downturn. I think it's like a poly issue because they're yeah, they're doing a lot of stuff not right. I think like there's people are not pleased.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I feel like there's a bit of a churn rate going on right now. So the one thing is, so I've been having this discussion on some of the other podcasts that I've done. There's this whole thing right now going around like, look, it's just you hear the news, right? Like it's also caught up in politics a little bit. So you hear like a lot of people who are like politicians in the U.S. saying Polymarket is bad. It's stealing from Polymarket and Kelshi are
Yeah,
bad. They're stealing from uninformed people. It's just like high IQ traders taken from like the low IQ traders.
yeah. Well, isn't
I
that the fact for everything in the world? Like,
Yeah, well, you can make that argument. You can make the argument that it's no different in stocks. It's no different. I mean, everything is kind of like information arbitrage to a certain degree.
yeah,
But it's also like an unsophisticated asset class, right? Like again, like it had this massive hype cycle. Now things might be like catching up a little bit. People are settling in. People are getting used to the idea of prediction markets, and yeah, so we might be going. we might be going through that. But I completely disagree with that, by the way. I
Yeah,
don't think that
I
that's
think it's not that bad. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's like it's still good. But certainly there are issues, and I think a lot of those politics, like I'm not American, but as you probably can hear, but it seems like a lot of them are being paid by the casinos and sports books, and I do think prediction markets are like way better than those products.
Yeah, I agree by leaps
So
and
yeah,
bounds. I mean, the sports books can't really hold a torch to prediction markets, in my opinion, either.
no,
Um, do you think that, as someone who's kind of traded in both worlds, um, do you think that it's easy? Is it like kind of like a natural leap to go to, like, is there a different skill set required to be a top trader on Polymarket as opposed to someone who's really good at trading in like equities markets? I mean, you're a top trader. You're like
yeah,
the
I don't know. I think poly is
yeah.
like, I mean, you certainly have some of the same skill sets, and I know that a lot of the sharps are also trading stocks, and on Hyperliquid they're doing like perps. So I know that a lot of people are doing the same. I guess it's like pattern recognition for poly. You also have like a lot of like reading the fine print and rules, uh, which I find a bit boring, but it's obviously very important to do. Mm. If you're gonna succeed in the space. I mean, I have never been like a stock trader. Like I was in private assets, so like buying, uh, yeah, private assets, which are like more like DD and underwriting and negotiation um, skill set and work than like trading equities. Um, but I mean, you need to be analytical, you need to be diligent, and you need to have like pattern recognition and be able to think logically. And I think that's important for yeah any career. And you probably yeah, I think you definitely have a lot of the same traits to like yeah do finance jobs and poly.
What strategy has been working for you lately? Like we talked about how like the big like the big free opportunities that used to exist are kind of like decreasing a little bit, but I feel like that strategy still works. You're just kind of making less. I mean, like
Yeah,
going for those high bond kind of opportunities. Um,
yeah.
is that kind of your main strategy right now, or are you more research focused? Are
No,
you,
I think I'm more like, I mean, I still do bonds. I have, for example, the Makersfield by-election tomorrow. I have a huge bonding position on that Restore UK doesn't win because there's no way. Like they don't like their polls. Their highest poll is 7%, but like that's one of those things that get very mispriced because Restore is very popular on X amongst like right-wing people, and I think most people on Poly are quite right wing. So we have lots of people who are terminally online, and same with Spencer Pratt election in LA. Like everyone was seeing him go viral, and they think he's going to win, but they forget that people who are actually voting in LA are not like very right wing.
hmm
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was a good opportunity as well. I mean, I think,
yeah.
and
I
I
should
think you
have
bring,
placed more money on it. I should have placed so much more money on it. It was fucking free, but still made a bit.
yeah, it's interesting too what you just said. Like, I'm wondering if this statement is accurate. Do you think maybe Polymarket is more right coded and Kelshi is a little more left coded, or?
I don't know. I think like anyone on the right or like anyone on the left would probably be like uh, I don't think anyone on the left likes prediction markets. Like it's sort of gambling and like trading and speculation. They hate that, right? And like
Yeah.
you make money and like yeah, I guess they hate if you make money. Maybe a bit more. I don't like the culture like always like sucking up to regulators and Pauline is like more the bad boy. But I mean, culture is doing a better job recently, I think. But I mean, I still love Poly because they have way more interesting markets, and until recently they were free. So
Yeah, like, yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I think Polymarket it's
it's the
hard to
bad
say if
boy.
there is a left coded
Yeah,
organization in prediction markets. I guess maybe if you were looking at like maybe non-political, but yeah, it is hard to say. Um, are there any tools? So in terms of like tooling and stuff, you mentioned fees. How does that play into kind of like the platforms that you're looking at? Like in terms, like, do you like, are you a user of Betmore, or do you, are there certain tools that you use to help you trade, to get better edge? I feel like this is becoming more of a thing, like the
Yeah.
tools that you use as a trader, not only just pure poly market trading, but what tools are you using, in addition?
I'm using Betmore. Betmore is great for execution analysis, and like they have this report function, which is really neat because you can see like if you have a big portfolio, like I don't know, 100 positions. I need like if something moves, I have no idea. Like I suddenly I lost $1,000 or I gained $1,000. Like what happened here? And then you can see like 6 hours change to your P&L, which is kind of good. And so I use Betmore a lot, and then I use what's it called? A bunch of what's called predict parity. I've used a little bit. I don't trade through that, but I just like use it. They have like this tracking thing, so you can like look at what other traders are doing. It's quite useful, because you can see like where volume is and like what others are doing. People who trade similar markets to you, what they're up to. I also have like my own tool that my friend has helped me vibe code. It like just like set up stuff that I find useful, like yeah, basically stuff that I find useful, and yeah, predict parity, bet more, and my own stuff. I also have one for Kalshi mentions, what's called mentions terminal, radar or something. It's called radar, or I think on what's it called on X, and he built this mentions terminal. It's quite useful if you do mentions trading, which I should do more of because I think it's fun, but it's like you need to do so much research, and the sharps are very sharp there, uh, and I never like find the time to dig into the transcripts. So I I do trade mentions for the big events like State of the Union. I'm going to do the White House correspondent dinner, and like the Iran speech. It's but those recurring small ones, I think it's not so good because the sharps are very sharp, and it's hard to compete against them.
Yeah, yeah, the mentions are really interesting, and it really does. I remember I followed like prediction market traders' whole rise from doing interviews like this to exclusively focusing on mention markets. And yeah, I think he just did it so much that eventually he became good at it.
Yeah,
I think it's like a practice thing. Like you just watch the speeches enough, and you'll pick up on those cues. The things where you really get screwed over are when it's like a new guy who's speaking. Then it's usually
yeah,
all no's, to be honest with you.
yeah.
I
But that's fun though, and that's like when it's
Yeah.
pure vibes. You have no data. You just have to go off vibes, and I really like stuff where you combine data and vibes. Like it's very fun. It's way more fun than yeah other stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There was this one, so there was this one mention market that I made a lot of money on, where the Syrian, it was like the Syrian president was coming in to speak at a press conference, like the first one with Trump, and I bet all knows, and the whole thing was canceled.
Oh, that's
like
nice.
like yeah, the whole
Yeah,
thing was canceled. Like the whole entire event was canceled. Which
that's very
on,
nice.
on that instance you luck out, but but typically what I've noticed, again, like I don't know if this is true. I don't trade mentions enough, but typically what I've noticed is if there's not a lot of data, there's there's a good chance that it's going to result to no, with the mentions. But
Yeah.
again, I don't
I don't.
trade too much.
I saw like some of those mentions traders say that like yeses have become a lot better. Like last year or like a year ago, it was way more no's because people were overestimating them. But now people have gotten quite sharp, and there's also bonders on Kalshi as well. So yeses have become better. But I honestly don't know that well because I haven't been trading mentions that much. I mean, I do a little bit. I dabble in it, but not a lot.
Yeah, it's funny. So my so A couple things. So I was looking at your portfolio today, and you just skyrocketed from let's go to it here. You just like skyrocketed from like 130 to like 200, 221K. What was the thing that did that for you? Because
Peace.
oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was peace. I've been bleeding all May as a peace tard is what we call it. Someone who bets on peace. I've sold it all now, I think, but yeah. So I've been bleeding money on peace for a long time, and it finally hit. So I think I made 100K last week, which is very nice. Um, so yeah, it finally hit. I wish I sized more, and it was quite obvious it was coming. But well, I'm happy. I made money. It's good.
Yeah, yeah, it was just kind of like a matter of time thing, but
Yeah,
you got in at a good price point too, I think, on some
yeah,
of these.
yeah. I think I've been like a bit burnt from like, and everyone has been burnt because it has like been so close so many times and then it didn't happen. So the price was still very low, and I think like it moves very quickly, and you just have to slam it when it's cheap, and that's what I did. And then I sold a bit too much when it tanked. So
So two markets that I was really interested in. You know, actually, I have three markets that I was really interested in things that you were taking positions in. The first market is Iran because I was looking at this market as well, but I didn't know whether to jump in. I saw PM Trader jump in. I don't know if you're familiar with PM Trader.
no, I don't.
Yeah, he's the founder of
PMT? No.
not PMT. Let me
Oh,
pull him up here. PM trade. I've been following this guy's trades, and that's basically how I've
oh,
been looking.
Adam, that guy. Yeah,
Yeah. Adam.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
PM trader Adam. So he jumped into this. So I was like, okay, maybe I should jump into this because that's what I've been doing lately. Um, and but like, what is your like? Do you think that this is going to resolve? Yes, or are you just playing this for the narrative? Because that's, you know, because this is a good because you got in at a good price point. I think you got
Yeah,
in like around
I
40.
think it's gonna resolve. Yes, I'm not gonna comment on why, but there is uh, certain people have certain information. I mean, nothing like it's like it can be inferred from like statements from multiple officials and stuff that this could qualify. It's gonna be a dispute for sure, but I think I think it's gonna happen. And yeah, the Trump admin will definitely um, like frame it this way, and Polly loves to kiss ass to the Trump admin in their resolutions. So if Trump says so, they're gonna resolve it.
Yeah. So the rules are kind of like basically if let me read the rules here. Um, any official pledge. Okay, so it's a pledge, right?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'm not gonna reveal the ace up the sleeve that someone has on stream, but it exists. But I hope the price will go lower before it. I hope the price will go lower and we can get cheaper shares. It's going to be interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, Hormuz. Well,
But it's
Hormuz.
definitely a risky one. Like, don't like it. This could go either way, but I think it's value in it.
Well, because out of your trades, I mean, this is usually riskier for you. I mean, you know, in terms of the trades that you generally take, this is, you know, which is why it stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Um, Hormuz, I think, is another interesting market, which I don't know what the price is, but this might be some easy money. I'm taking a let's look at it right now. You're playing this, right?
And I had positions, but I sold. I don't. I might have like so. Let me see. Or moves. I have. I have like 2,000 shares, so like it's not really a proper position for me.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, this is still a no. I mean, I just feel like the minefield alone would
Yeah,
keep this going.
I think the problem for me to trade this is the resolution servers. Portwatch, they are an absolute shit show. Like they have published like very incorrect data many times. They're super unprofessional. Like I don't trust them enough to provide correct data. So I think
Interesting.
it's yeah, I think it's like I yeah, I don't think so.
Like, is there some backlog to this? Like, have they messed up before
Yeah,
this
there's
market?
definitely some backlog, and I think also one of the arguments for yes here that it might go to yes is because uh, 60 ships a day is really not that much. Like real actual normalization would be like 120, 130 ships. Like they took like the month before as normalization, and that was super low. I'm like, don't shoot me if I misquote a bit here, but I think it's very, yeah, yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, well, no, I think that that's good to keep in mind. Definitely like what this resolves on
yeah.
is
Because I think definitely it's not going to happen normalization, but it might resolve. It might resolve incorrectly, or like it might resolve yes regardless, because it's such a shit show of a resolution source and it's quite low, and you just need 420 ships in a week to hit the 60, and there's like 1,000 ships stuck there still. Uh, Going back to normal, no, but hitting that 420 ships in a week, I think it's possible. But yeah, also given the data issues, I'm not taking a position really. I've been trading it, swing trading it for the narrative because it's like when peace pumps, this pumps, and vice versa. If I could get no like a lot cheaper, if it pumped a lot harder, but I think market has like become more like sharp on this. I was hoping to enter it when peace hit, but it never got cheap enough for me to decide to take the no.
it could be very volatile too. I mean, at the very least, if
Yeah,
you're taking a position in this, be prepared for like another swing up at
yeah,
at
for
any
sure.
moment.
Yeah,
Which is not great for long term kind of trading.
yeah.
Um, so okay, so I thought that this was an interesting position you took. What price will Bitcoin
Oh,
hit? You said no on 40K. I think it would be actually very hard for Bitcoin to reach 40K. I mean, that's bearish upon bearish, right? Because like,
yeah. I don't see it. I mean, it's possible, but yeah, I don't think so. I have lost a bit on this crypto because I bought like a bunch of these, yeah, Bitcoin Reach, and I lost a bit on Ether because Ether tanked so much. But I like it's a very small portion of my portfolio, and like I haven't put much money on this. But I really don't see Bitcoin going to 40K. Then we have bigger problems in the world than me losing, I don't know, $2,000.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah. Well, it's funny because crypto markets are like the least prediction based of the prediction markets, in my opinion. Like betting
Yeah,
on crypto markets is like it's volatile either way, right? Like, you go into Poly Market, and if it's at 90% chance tomorrow for like an election, yeah, generally the election's gonna, that's gonna happen. Like Poly Market can be good at predicting that sort of stuff. But with
yeah.
crypto, it's still horrible at predicting. Like you don't know
I mean,
what
I
the heck.
guess you can sort of price this. These are like one touch barrier options, and you can price it with what's called Black-Scholes formula. If
Mm.
I was slightly better at computers, I would market make it as such. And I've bought them at times like when they seem cheap, because I can just put it in like the price and the volatility and the strike price, etc. And you can basically, it's an option. You can price it. But I mean, I'm not into that. There are lots of like people trading crypto and stocks on Poly, and those are doing that like way better than me. But it's possible.
So what is your, again, it's not a prediction market question per se, but what is your forecast on Bitcoin? Like, do you think we're in for like a multi-year crypto winter, or do you think it's going to do a fake out and go back up again end of year?
Oh, that's hard. I'm a bit bearish. I still hold my Bitcoin and my crypto. Uh, it's not that much, or it's a bit, but I still hold it because eventually we'll be back. But I think like crypto is very driven by access to capital, and I think things are expensive all over the Western world now. The costs of living are high, so like retail doesn't have that much save liquidity, and all the like big institutional capital as well as most risk-seeking capital, because crypto is very like high risk uh, investments, right? They're all in AI now. Like it's like sucking up so much liquidity. Like there's nobody wants to invest in crypto if you can invest in Nvidia or yeah.
Or SpaceX? SpaceX is the other
Yeah, or
one.
SpaceX. Yeah, SpaceX. I'm actually in SpaceX Sharp on Poly. I'm number 20 ranked on SpaceX market. So that's funny.
Yeah, SpaceX is taking
Yeah,
off.
I've been trading SpaceX markets, and I saw the ranking on SpaceX tag, and I'm number 20. So it's funny. I traded the IPO a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you think the IPO is gonna do you think it's gonna continue to climb, or do you think we're gonna kind of get what we usually get, which is like a retail dump?
I think, I mean, uh, I think it's definitely crazy priced, but it's definitely a really good company. And the float is really low, and I think that kind of keeps it up. And eventually, like more free float is going to happen, and then we're gonna tank a bit. So I think it's not going. But it's an Elon company, like they always pump. Like it's very hard. I actually faded the SpaceX pump the other day. If you search my profile, like my portfolio for SpaceX, I think you can see my bets on the SpaceX valuation because I have some. Um, yeah, I
Yeah,
did some.
let me look at this. Oh
Uh,
yeah, I think I did see
I think
something.
there's a search bar, and then you can find the SpaceX valuation because it was pumping crazy, like yesterday or the day before that, and then I just slammed nose because the thing is, like, it's a really big company. Like, it's not a meme stock, even though it's like really, yeah, it's still
Yeah,
hard.
yeah, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that part of me, again, like I'm like long term, I'm bullish on SpaceX. But short term, I do look at the revenue and I'm like, okay, 3 billion, I think it's like 3 billion in revenue or something like that. And a lot
It's
of
too
it is
little.
Starlink. So if you're taking a bet on SpaceX, you're really taking a bet on Starlink, in my opinion. That seems to be like the biggest business right now. Now, I have seen some mining people jump in, right? Like I saw that big mining billionaire just jumped in with like a ton of SpaceX shares.
Oh
Um, but mining is not part of their business. That's like a speculative thing.
no,
That's like something that they could do.
yeah, I think it's a very interesting company, but yeah, God knows where the valuation will be. It's if I knew that, I would be on my yacht in Monaco, not here.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a bellwether, right? Like it could be a
Yeah,
bellwether for more space stocks. That's kind of how I see it. Like,
yeah,
kind of like what Nvidia is right now for AI.
yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of like let's see, we got so much good information out of this already. I think and I don't want to take up too much of your time because we're at the 40-minute mark. But
Sure.
maybe as a last question, maybe well, let's think. Uh, let me think. I could ask you about rules and what your opinion on rule fights are, and if you think that they're getting better
I
or
think it's
worse.
horrible.
You think it's bad?
It's
Okay,
hor.
so
I think it's worse because these days they clarify everything, and the clarifications are often like dog shit. Or they're not necessarily dog shit. I think when they start clarifying everything on poly, it's good because they stop a lot of the rule cuts, and like people don't get scammed on small technicalities as much, which I think is a good thing. The bad thing is that it seems like there's no consistency in the resolutions. I reposted like someone posted about like this uh, um, Democratic primary winner in New York with Hakeem Jeffries, and they even have a rule. So the election didn't happen, and they had written a proper rule for what's going to happen if like no election takes place, and they have written then the market will resort to other, and then they clarify it against their own rule. Like, did they even read the rule that they wrote like 6 months ago or a year ago when they made the market? Like, it doesn't seem like they did it, and they just yeah, I think it's a good thing that they stopped the most blatant cucks and like scammy markets, but they really should put more thought into writing these rules in the first place and then sticking by them, and they should issue like a clarification bible or like some written explanation on what's going on here, because it's very hard to trade this, and uncertainty is always very bad for liquidity. So if they want people to provide liquidity and trade this, and which is like the good thing, and we have less controversial markets such as the MicroStrategy market, where a lot of like newbies got rinsed for a lot of money and generated lots of negative press. Then they need to be more detailed, more thorough, and more consistent. So I think it's we're not in a good state. I think Kalshi might be a bit better than Poly, but I mean they certainly have their issues as well.
So kind of on that note, my my last question for you, just to kind of close everything up is, what do you think the next kind of trending thing is going to be in prediction markets? Like, where do you see things going? Do you think that, like one crazy one off the top of my head, it could be like Polymarket scratches the whole decentralization model. I've thought about this
Yeah.
a lot, like if that's ever going to happen, because I know that they've done that before with other things, like they did it with their old, order book, for instance, right? So like, I'm curious, that's just one example, but I'm curious on your take on what you think.
I mean, I think I would not mind, or except that you would have to do KYC and stuff probably. But like so much funds are being hacked by scam links on X and in the comments on Poly. So a lot of traders get drained for a lot of money. And yeah, people are trying to send malware. Like on Discord, I recruited a real life friend to trade on Poly, and he got scammed by the Discord scammers. Because if you go for customer support in Polymarkets, this support Discord, you get thousands of DMs, and like they're quite clever. They can scam you, and he got drained for like $1,000. Nothing crazy, but like it really ruins the experience and is very damaging for the space. And I think like if Polymarket is not decentralized in any way when it comes to resolutions. Like if it's Yuma, it's Yuma Rocks who decides. Yuma Rocks listens to a lot of the traders though, and they listen to arguments. They're not like, it's not like they make super wrong decisions. They make some questionable decisions at times, and they do also trade the markets themselves. So like, but usually they are not the worst. And Poly issues centralized clarifications because Yuma Rocks decides everything if they don't issue a clarification. So for every important market, Poly issues clarifications, and if it's not important, Yuma Rocks can do what they want. So it's not decentralized. I think leaving the decentralized model would be good for user safety, and like resolutions are not decentralized in any way at this point. That's a joke.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some pretty good arguments. I mean, you touched on one, but I think there are good arguments that, you could move to a simpler model, and I'm sure it's tempting, right? I'm sure it's tempting to be like, okay, well, if we just centralized it a little bit, we could get rid of a lot of these headaches. But we'll see. There's arguments to the decentralization model as well. I mean, again, it's the crypto philosophy, right? Like, we can do things decentralized. It's a harder route to go, though, for sure. It's definitely a harder route. Cool.
And I think it's nice that it's very transparent, like on the blockchain on Poly. I really like that you can see who your counterparties are. You can, like, they caught a bunch of insiders because it's on the blockchain, right? It's public, so it's very many good things with this as well. Like,
that is very useful. Like the transparency. The transparency is one of blockchain's biggest things. Like, honestly, if I were to say, like, what is the value set of blockchain, like the most valuable thing, it's that, it's a visible database that everyone can see. That's incredibly valuable. That's always been valuable. Cool. Well, Gollum, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. We got some great alpha out of this. I mean, to be honest with you, I knew we would when we would have you on, but we did get some really good alpha out of this. So thanks for coming on.
No problem. Okay. Well, have a good day.
Cool. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.